This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Let's get started. Okay, yes, it's time. Let's get started with our session on machine learning operations specialization course demo. Okay, so this session is going to be for next 2 hours. We're going to have a lot of fun on learning MLOps and learning what is this course is about, what is this specialization course is about, and who is it for, and yeah, how to sit on top of an industry after learning MLOps. Okay, so let's get started. So yeah, so before we getting started, yeah, still participants are joining, so let's get started. So they might join on the way. So first of all, I would like to wish you guys an happy new year 2023 for everyone. So yeah, we'll all wish a great success for everyone in this year, obviously. So yeah, let's get started. So before we getting started, okay, so I would like to have a quick confirmation in case if my screen is visible for you guys clearly and if my audio is clear enough, please confirm me by saying yes in the chat window. So let's make sure that everyone has a proper audio feed and the video feed. So then we will get started. You can able to use your chat window to confirm. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for confirming that. So now let us get started. Okay, so let me try to switch on my camera. Okay, you should be able to, yeah, see me now, I guess. Yeah. Hey, hi. Yeah, let's get started. So this is Sarath Kumar from Cytron Technologies. I'm a founder and CEO of this company. So what we do in Cytron Technologies, so we are EdTech and product-based company. I mean, so we do two things. So we work with a lot of different industries. I mean, so we provide ML, AI solutions, IoT solutions for corporates. We train them. So personally, you can, yeah, Sharad, so a data scientist, MLOps engineer, so whatever you want to call in terms of machine learning, let's say. Personally, I've done more than 70 plus workshops and courses, trained more than 5,000 plus working professionals, students like you. Okay, so today I'm about to train again more than 100 of peoples on MLOps right now. So let us get started. So more about me later. So let us just focus on what exact the today's target is. Okay, so let me just mute my camera so you can able to have the proper video feed. Otherwise, yeah, you will see my face towards the left side and not a proper video feed. So yes. Okay, so someone is saying, okay, not audible, please check. Okay, you can, yeah, so check your audio feed. Yeah, so most probably everyone could able to listen to me. Okay, so awesome. So what is this session is about? So machine learning operations, ML ops specialization course. It's about the course that we're going to conduct on 20, it's going to start from 28th of January. So it's a demo regarding this particular course, and obviously, yeah, we also going to learn a bit about ML ops also over here. Okay, so let us get started. So before we getting started, let's try to understand my audience here. So peoples, you might be registering from various different platforms for this particular demo session on ML ops, might be coming from different backgrounds. Okay, so please mention who you are. Like, let's say if you're a working professional, just mention, okay, what you do. You are a data scientist, just mention as a data scientist. If you're a data engineer, data analyst. If you're a student, just mention you are as a student. Let's try to understand who we have in our platform today, so then I can able to get some threshold, so I can able to deliver the content for you guys today in this 2 hours. Okay, so here we go. We are getting a lot of messages. Okay, so we can see there are data analysts, there are data scientists, ML engineers, automation testers, data analysts, support engineers. Okay, so then we could see again data scientist, cloud architect, cloud data scientist. Awesome, that's good. So awesome, I guess. Yeah, so is there any DevOps peoples here again? So you can just mention, okay, software testers. Yeah, again, they comes into that anyway. So awesome, right? So let's discuss about, okay, we have DevOps peoples. Awesome. No, like, obviously without those guys, yeah, so we have IoT engineers. That's awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, let's start our journey now. Let's talk about three things. Okay, so we're going to these are the three highlighted things that we're going to discuss throughout this session. What is this MLOps? What is this MLOps, right? Otherwise, a machine learning operations, and what it takes to master MLOps, and how does a job industry looks for MLOps? Okay, let's dig into that in very much detailed way. Okay, so let's have a quick glance, then we will get started, obviously. Okay, so whatever the session that we conduct, we used to display this particular picture. Okay, so just to boost up you guys, okay, just try to observe. Here we are trying to discuss about something called machine learning, right? Obviously, then something called machine learning operations, right? So let's try to get some insights about machine learning here, just watching this particular picture right now. Okay, so what is machine learning in a layman terms? Let's discuss this, then we will quickly discuss about MLOps. Okay, I want you guys to observe this picture for next 10 seconds, then I'm going to ask some questions. Okay, go ahead, just observe this picture, nothing a much deal, just observe this picture, that's it. Go ahead. Okay, awesome. So I guess you have observed is there is nothing much, right? Obviously, right? So what is this picture is about? What you can able to find in this picture? Describe yourself. I mean, describe that in the chat window. What do you find in this particular picture, right? So what do you see? What objects that you could able to recognize from this particular picture? What do you see? Like, okay, so what does this picture looks like? What does this scenery looks like, right? So just describe that in a chat window. So we can see that Raj, he's saying dog day out. That's awesome. Then Kishore is saying that expect the man walking, everything is blurry. Okay, good. So dogs and persons, Ankur is saying like, then we have Vamsi saying people's in the ground, right? That's awesome. Awesome. That's good. Obviously, we could able to describe it, right? Isn't that awesome, right? That's good. So, but that's not the exact question that I would like to ask. Okay, so my question is this. Okay, my question is this. Okay, how do you know this is a picture of a park? First of all, like few people describe this is a picture of a dog, right? How do you know this is a picture of a dog in a first hand, right? And how do you know this is a picture of a man? And how do you know this is a picture of a woman? So how do you know that? How do you know she's a woman? And how do you describe these are trees? And how do you know this is grass? And how do you know this is a path where you can able to walk? Right? So Ankur is saying pattern recognition, image recognition. Obviously, that's true, right? So what is this? What I'm trying to explain here is nothing but we are the best examples of what we are talking about today, and AI, machine learning, deep learning, isn't it? Right? We are a best example. So obviously we are a biological machines, right? So how do we learn these things anyway? How did we came to learn such things in our life, right? So this came from our childhood, obviously, as Kishore is saying, right? So let's say it started from your parents, isn't it? We started learning from parents. Our parents started teaching how to walk, how to recognize the peoples, right? And then you go for primary education where you start learning different things like mathematics, science. You could able to recognize your friends, you could able to recognize your families, relatives, right? So then you again go for high school or maybe college degree, then you learn different things, right? So which will make you better and better once we start learning things. Each and every day we learn things, isn't it? So we learn things in many different patterns. We learn things through visual, I mean through watching through our eyes. We learn through a sense, right? A smell, for example, right? We consume a data in many different patterns, right? Isn't it? So that's what exactly human being at the end of the day want to replicate, right? That's what exactly we are trying to do. Whatever the way that we learn the things and way we could able to make a predictions and way we could able to forecast what's going to happen tomorrow, right? So today you guys are here you decided to spend your valuable 2 hours with me, believing that you will be learning something awesome today on top of MLOps, right? And believing that MLOps is going to be part of your resume, going to upgrade your career to the next level in the year of 2023, right? That's why you guys are here, right? So considering that, let's say human being is trying to do the same stuff. Whatever we have learned it, the way that we've learned, and that way we could able to make some predictions and forecasting for what is going to happen in the future. He's trying to do the same things with this dumb missions, obviously, right? So we have the servers, we have these computers in our homes, we might have this high-end servers in a cloud platform, it may be the low-end devices like Raspberry Pi in your home, right? So we are trying to do the same stuff, right? So we consume data in many different patterns, right? Let's say in the same way we want to teach this data, the way we learned, we want to teach this data to these machines, then we could able to ask these machines to make some predictions, right? Isn't it? Let's say, for example, we have a simple data set here. Let's say, so we have a data set in the format of CSV files, right? A data can be in many different patterns at the end of the day, right? So let's say the goal is to teach this data to this machine. So then I might ask this machine, once it's learned the data, to make some forecasting to predict, right? So let's say we consider this particular data as a electricity data, right? That I collected from your home. It may be the electricity data that I collected from your like office, whatever it is. Just consider that I have collected a 3 years of electricity data where I'm going to have 30,000 data points. I mean 30,000 rows in this particular file. What do you mean by that? Let's say I collected electricity consumption pattern data from your home. It may be your office, like how much energy does your washing machine, what a geyser, air conditioning unit in your home that does consumes, right? I collected all this data. I put it as a CSV file right now. My aim is here to take this data, to teach this data to this machine. So then this machine is going to produce something called machine learning model. So then I'm going to ask this model to make some forecast saying that what will be my electricity consumption pattern in next 6 months, right? So how it's going to be, or what's the bills that I'm going to receive for the next 6 months, right? That is what exactly machine learning, isn't it? So where I teach a data to this machine, the machine understands the patterns from it, so then it could able to make a forecast, a predictions, a future. It could able to predict what's going to happen in the future at the end of the day. So that's a very basic thing, right? That's what exactly a machine learning is in a layman terms. Otherwise, let's say it might not be a tabular data that we have here. Let's say instead of that, I want to teach my machine a difference between a cat and a dog, right? So let's say I have a bunch of pictures that I collected from an internet where I have a bunch of cats and bunch of dogs images. I teach all this data to this machine. Let's say then I put up a camera. Let's say you consider that it may be any webcam or whatever it is. I put it in front of my device. Let's say I have a cat standing in front of that particular camera. So then my machine could able to make a prediction saying that I got a cat in front of my camera. Otherwise, I predicted a dog in front of my camera, right? That's again an example of computer vision, right? So today we are in the age of ML and AI, right? I mean, so today we are already consuming applications of ML and AI. The one good example that I would like to provide, it may be a face recognition system that you might have in your smartphones. What do you mean by that? So I mean, you might be having a front-facing selfie camera, which could able to help you to unlock your phone, isn't it? So that's an example of computer vision, right? So today we are regularly interacting with voice assistant services like it may be Alexa from Amazon. It may be a Google Voice Assistant that you have in your phone right now, right? It may be Apple Siri from Apple, right? So these are the good examples, right? So what it takes, right? How does a typical workflow of creating a machine learning model looks like, right? So again, this is a very layman term. Still, we haven't started discussing about MLOps. Okay, I'm just brushing out a few things, basics before we discussing about MLOps today. Okay, so what it takes, right? What is a typical workflow of creating a machine learning model? What are the steps involved in that, right? So here we go. So we discussed about how we learn a data, right? Isn't it? So we consume a data in many different patterns. We consume a data through visuals, through our ears, through sense, through smell, all the different ways, right? Similarly, so a machine can consume a data in various different formats, obviously, right? Your data can be a picture, isn't it? Your data can be a simple CSV file. It can be a JSON document. It can be a text file, isn't it? So it can be even more different formats that we might have, right? In a first step of building a successful machine learning model, we will be starting from something called data preparation, isn't it? So what is this data preparation? Data preparation is nothing but how we cook a food in a kitchen, right? So what we do when we are cooking, right? So we take some ingredients, we take some rice or whatever it is, we remove unnecessary things and we make sure the spices are ready. That's how we get started, right? So similarly, in preparation, otherwise in a data preparation, right, we get a data from our business, from your repositories or from a public. So we started removing all the garbages from it, all the noise from it, right? We optimize the data. I mean, basically we transform the data, we clean the data, right? So once your data is clean and ready, then we will be using this IDEs. It may be a Jupyter notebooks, it may be a VS Code or whatever the IDEs that where you want to write a code, right? A simple script. It may be a script from a Python, it may be R, it may be Go, whatever it is, right? So we write a simple code script where we define what kind of a machine that I'm going to use to teach teach this data, right? I might be having a CPU sitting in my home. I might be having a GPU based machine sitting in my office. I might be having a GPU based server sitting on a cloud, right? I might use different machines to teach this data. So here I define all those stuff. Then I pick this machine. Then I teach this data to this machine at the end of the day, right? So then now machine is going to learn all the data that we have prepared in a preparation step. So once the data is learned from a machine, so machine is going to produce something called machine learning model. Okay, so then we're going to use this machine learning model to conduct a test on it, right? So let's say once we have created a beautiful machine learning model, we need to ensure that whether this model can able to make a futuristic predictions, whether it could able to predict what will be my electricity bill forecast for next 6 months, right? We need to validate that. That's where we do a testing, right? So once your test cases are cleared, if your test is, I mean, you're really satisfied with your test, then we will register this model into something called model registry. We will talk about that one in detail later. So once we have a model, then we will be taking that model from a model registry to deploy that model in a production ready environment, right? So what do you mean by deployment, or what do you mean by hosting a model in a production ready environment? It's similar to how we host our simple website, right? So let's say you go to www.google.com, so where you could able to see a Google landing page, right? A Google page where you can able to search, right? Similarly, we deploy a model, and where your developers comes into the picture to build a beautiful application, a client-side application. So maybe you might want to build an Android application. Maybe you want to build a simple like a web application, right? So it completely depends on the industry what they want to do, right? So where your clients comes and interacts with it, right? So that's what exactly what it takes, right, to build a typical workflow of machine learning, right? Isn't it? So we understand what is exactly machine learning is, right? So machine learning is nothing but a study of an algorithm and a mathematical models where your computer system uses progressively to improve a specific task. Otherwise, we teach complex mathematical models at the end of the day for our machine. So once it's understood, it could able to make a futuristic prediction, right? Isn't it all about machine learning? We use different kind of programming languages along with this. Maybe I want to write a code in a Python, maybe R, even a C++ or JavaScript is possible today, right? Isn't it all about machine learning? That's it. There is nothing much. Obviously there is more, right? So what it takes a company and what it takes an organization to become a success in the long run, what it takes, let's say, companies like Uber, companies like Netflix, right? To build a very successful machine learning model running for decades, right? So that's where MLOps comes into the picture. What is this MLOps? Machine learning operations, okay? So here we know that we have a lot of working professionals, isn't it, right? So we are in a field, so we have our data analysts, we have data engineers, we have DevOps team, we have data scientists here, okay? So let's try to understand what it takes an organization to become a successful in a long run when they are into machine learning or a data science, okay? So let's try to understand first a state of machine learning. Okay, where does an industry really stands? This is the reality. First of all, you need to understand the reality, then only you could able to decide why MLOps is really important. Okay, let's consider what just happened last decade. Okay, so just consider what just happened last decade. Okay, so if you see this buzzwords, right, when people talk about machine learning, artificial intelligence, data science, just imagine last 10 years ago. So every company, every corporate, every startups, right, every education sector, right, they want to get into data science, machine learning, or artificial intelligence, right? So everyone started focusing on building a ML models actually, right? But obviously, let's say if you have checked out, even you could able to come up with your own stories. Last 10 years, maybe last 5 years, you might be in an organization where building a simple machine learning models, but they are not getting into a full-fledged production anytime right now, right? So you should able to see operationalizing those machine learning models into production is actually the next goal, basically after though. That's what the plan for every organization. So you could able to see, you cannot just say that, okay, right now every organization has a successful machine learning model running in a production, making revenues at the end of the day. That's not happening. That's a reality. So if you see today, let's consider what just happened last 10 years. Let's consider what's happening today, right? So today, if you consider this data, what I'm displaying is it's completely got from an experts from AWS AI Confluent from Bangalore. So today, like 53% of proof of concepts POC makes into production. That's it. Just imagine Okay, like if a thousands of companies builds ML model, but only 53% of those companies are becoming successful, are getting into the production, right? So it might take an average of 9 months to come to that particular stage. Actually, that's how the scenario. But this, according to the predictions, by end of 2024, right? So we are 2023, right? So 2024 is not, it's not just after 5 years or after 10 years, it's just 1 year, right? So 75% of organizations will shift to a piloting to operationalize their AI. I mean, the models they have built, the final customer-facing models, right? They're going to get into operationalizing. That's the scenario. That's where we are actually traveling. Okay. Saying that, let's discuss what is exactly MLOps. So why MLOps makes an organization successful? Okay. Okay, here we go. What is exactly MLOps? So MLOps is basically a set of practices. It's actually the collaboration between teams. I mean, let's say it might be the collaboration between a data scientist or maybe operational professionals, right? So basically applying these practices could able to increase the quality and could able to simplify the management process actually. Okay. So saying that, so apart from that, so it's all about the automation that we are talking about. So automation in the process of deploying your machine learning models and deep learning models to a large scale production environment. So that's a goal. Okay. So yeah, give me a sec. Yeah, here we go. So now let us discuss about what is the MLOps, what is exactly the MLOps motivation looks like, and what is the high level of MLOps looks like. Okay, the high level view of MLOps actually, right? So here, as I'm talking about, MLOps is all about the collaboration between a teams. It may be a data scientist that you might have in your organization, operations team that you might have in your organization, data analyst, or maybe data engineers that you might have in your organization, right? So MLOps is a discipline basically that sits intersection between the different teams. So let's talk about the hierarchy here. It may be the teams of machine learning, it may be the teams of data engineering and DevOps. So let's say as part of this Venn diagram, it's an intersection of all these teams where you have an MLOps comes into the picture. So let's say these intersections of these practices, they come together, really drives a value how we build, deliver and manage your machine learning models into production actually. So this is where the MLOps discipline enables the core set of practices to span a people, process and technology that we are working every day. Okay, so this is about the MLOps actually, right? So let's discuss, let's dig deep into that. Let's try to get some more insight out of it. Okay, so what is the traditional challenge of MLOps today? So I mean, in layman terms, what is the challenges in deploying your machine learning model and making it successful, right, for next decade, right, running very successfully, right? So what are the challenges, right? So creating a machine learning let's say workflow, right, can literally we will be getting into different challenges. So I mean, it may be a data preparation step that we have, which is part of it, our model training step that was part of it, our model deployment step, which is part of it, right? So let's say, so what we usually do in a data preparation step, right? So your data preparation step might contain, let's say, one to many tasks, like let's say where you are taking a raw data set and eventually converting that into a training data set or maybe a test data set that you need, right? So then comes a model training step. So in a model training step, you may have some additional steps inside your model training. So whether you are doing a single model training or you might want to do a different steps along with that, maybe you want to do hyperparameter optimization along with that, right? You might have different steps, right? And let's say when it comes to your model deployment step, so you want to deploy, let's say, your model, right, in a one single step. Otherwise you want to let's say whenever we want to deploy it on top of a proper standard way, you could have to deploy it into staging environment. You might want to deploy a model to a production environment, right? And you might have a different controls inside, like, okay, let's say I have deployed my model, I want to deploy my model to staging and production. So where I want someone in my hierarchy, in my pipeline, want to manually approve that model to a production, right? I don't want to automatically deploy, but there would be someone manually approving the quality. Then okay, let's go and deploy a model to production ready environment, right? So basically there are a lot of different steps, and actually there are a lot of different dependencies has to work together, basically to ultimately to build this and build out something that provides iterative life cycle actually across what we are trying to build, and also to provide end-to-end traceability. That is very important, right? Because so we need to log each and everything. We need to understand what's happening, what goes into each and every step, what's happening in data preparation step, what's happening in model training, what's happening in model deployment. I mean, I'm talking about the transparency of what's really happening in your pipeline, right? So this is the basically like these are the challenges that we usually face, right? So and let's talk about DevOps too over here, because when we talk about MLOps, obviously DevOps traditional tools is also part of this particular systems, right? So MLOps challenges similar to DevOps. Okay, let's discuss this. Okay, so what is really DevOps is at the end of the day? Basically, let's say DevOps is a process where we use it for maintaining a normal software development life cycle, right? So let's say when we talk about in terms of MLOps, right, challenges in operationalizing MLOps have some commonalities compared with a software development lifecycle. Like for example, a CI/CD practices that we are talking usually in DevOps is common again when we talk about machine learning. Otherwise, a source and version control tools or maybe the techniques that we are talking in DevOps is again common in machine learning actually, right? So basically when we talk about MLOps, so lot of the times, CI/CD tools that is built for let's say DevOps, so may not be applied. I mean, so it may not be applied, or maybe may not be enough for machine learning actually. So in reality, you might use different combinations of tools and integrations. Sometimes that purpose built for, let's say, your data preparation, purpose built for your model training, and even a purpose built for model deployment, right? So there are more tools which is part of MLOps, but still a traditional DevOps tools like CI/CD practices or maybe source version controls is part of our MLOps systems also, right? So all of this, can be complicated, and actually it will be challenging. So basically we have different peoples working together, different roles and responsibilities, different tools. We need to stitch together and where it should able to work as a golden pipeline actually. But the reality is there is no golden pipeline that you could able to stick to. What do you mean by golden pipeline? Let's say it is one drafted pipeline where every organization could able to follow. No, it's not going to happen, because let's say the reasons could be this, right? The requirement of a technical implementation for each and every organization would be different, obviously, right? Your organization structure would be different. That's another important aspect. Tools you might need to be integrated might also vary, depends on our organization. Okay, so then what is so much common when we talk about MLOps? The core steps and the concepts that we're going to that I'm going to talk about, what we're going to talk in our course is going to remain same for whatever the organization that you're going to work, where you're going to implement ML pipelines actually. Okay, so what it takes to master MLOps, first of all, okay, what it takes to master MLOps, what it takes to master MLOps, which is going to make you sit on top of an industry, right, on top of MLOps as a celebrity, right? If we discuss about the core components, okay, the MLOps components will be something like this, right? So how do we start it? For any organization, we will be starting from obviously an use case discovery, right? So then comes, once the use case is figured out, then we do data engineering. We figure out where is the data, how do we get the data, prepare it, transform it. So then we comes and build a machine learning pipelines. So right, for the model training, for automatic model train, automatic model build and deploy those scenarios. Then comes final deployment process. Once we deploy our machine learning model, then we need to monitor. That's a very important aspect, right? So we need to monitor a model that is deployed in a production ready environment, right? So this is the core components, right? If you want to split it into multiple categories, let's say it goes something like this, right? So first of all, the business understanding, right? So first of all, you need to understand, first of all, ML is the right solution or not for that particular the problem that you're trying to work, right? So ML may not be a problem always. A simple logics that you're going to write in a Python or maybe a simple code could able to fix a problem, right? So machine learning is all about learning a data, understanding a patterns, then it could able to make some predictions out of it, right? It might predict, forecast what might happen in the future, right? So let's say we got a use case. Let's say we figured out a business, right? Then we figured out the particular use case. We understand the requirement for what is data requirement. Then we did a feasible study saying that, okay, we have enough data, we have a source for a data. So then you have a source for data, then we go for a data preparation, obviously. So you set up a team, you call in the data engineers, you tell them to start preparing a data, build up data engineering pipelines, all those stuff. So then obviously then we will be learning about algorithm, what kind of an algorithm that you could able to use for your organization could able to solve that specific problem. You might be working in a banking industry, e-commerce, maybe agriculture, a space, whatever it is. Different organizations will have a different requirements, right? Different ML frameworks you might be using, right? So then you figured out the framework, then we will be starting building a model, right? I mean, training a model. So then finally we'll be evaluating a model. Basically, let's say we are testing it, right? For example, I mean, so after experimentation anyway. So once we do all the experimentations, let's say we do a hyperparameter tuning, all the stuff, then finally we do model evaluation. I mean, basically we'll be testing with the test data that we might have. Let's say if you're really satisfied with the results that has been obtained, finally you'll be going for a model serving step, right? So this is where once your model is ready for serving, then comes your model deployment step. Let's say you want to deploy your machine learning model to a cloud platform, maybe to your edge device, depends on your use case again. So you deploy your model, then you build an automation, let's say in order to operate and monitor your complete infrastructure that you have built, to monitor your machine learning model, to figure out if there is any drift or data drift or concept drift, right? And again, to build it, to optimize it, and again this cycle has to continue again and again, right? So that's the thing. So if you want to dig a deeper, let's say the use case discovery, right? Who will be a few stakeholders will be responsible for it? Let's say our business analyst who is sitting in the industry along with a data scientist. So they will be defining a business problem as a problem statement, right? So then they will be setting an objectives to be solved based on this ML with associated KPIs at the end of the day. So then comes the data engineers. So once the problem statement is defined, so data engineers along with a data scientist, they will figure out a way to acquire a data from various different sources. Maybe as a business you might be having a data sitting in your industry, otherwise you might want to build a data engineering pipelines to bring in a data, right? So there are different things. So then comes the next step is you will be building a machine learning pipeline at the end of the day. So this is where the stage where you design and deploy a pipeline. So with integrated CI CD, the pipelines where you have a different tools in that, we will discuss that later. So where let's say our dear data scientists use these pipelines to do multiple experimentation and testing at the end of the day. So this machine learning pipeline should able to ensure and track the data and model lineage and associated KPIs very closely to what you have built so far, right? That's another important aspect. So then comes a production deployment, right? Let's say your machine learning model is ready. Now you want to deploy it to the production ready environment. So you need to ensure that you have a secure and seamless deployment has to be met in your production server. So where you choose whether you want to deploy your model to a cloud platform, otherwise you want to deploy it to your own on-premises server sitting on your lab, on your company, maybe to the edge devices, or maybe you want to deploy to a hybrid cloud, right? Depends on your requirements at the end of the day. So let's say once deploying your machine learning model, the actual job actually starts right now. Okay, so let's discuss this. Okay, so production monitoring, right? Production monitoring is again very important. Let's say you deployed your machine learning model, you need to start monitoring your model. Not just that, you need to monitor your complete infrastructure, right? So what you have done for data engineering and what you have done for model building, all this stuff, right? And you need to ensure that you continually monitor using the KPIs that you have configured in a previous step. So where you need to continuously monitoring for if there is any changes in your input data distributions or changes in your model performance, right? This is the stuff, right? So this seems to be a lot of informations, right? But let's talk about in detail right now. Okay, let's talk about a story here. Let's say we have a lot of data engineers, data scientists, right? Let's say we have built a successful machine learning model, right? So let's say we have built let's say we accumulated the data. Let's say we built a successful machine learning model, but we deployed it. But let's say we never worried about building a proper pipeline. Okay, let's say we had trained a model and we deployed it. Just that's it. Okay, so let's say what happens, right? Obviously, machine learning model, we believe that that's a final end product. But yes, it is. Let's say we had deployed a machine learning model to a production right now. You might expect that to work properly in a production. Obviously, it is going to work. Consider that it's going to work for next 6 months without any issues. There is no drift being identified from your model, right? But let's say after 6 months, your model become useless. I mean, your model is not making a predictions that's no more is going to be useful for your customers at the end of the day. So what does that mean? Okay, let me give an example, right? Just consider what happened before COVID and what is happening after COVID right now. So I used to provide this example for everyone. So consider that before COVID, we go for movies. Obviously, you guys love going for theaters, right? We go for all the kind of theater, all the kind of movies to theaters. Whether he or she might be a favorite actor or actress, we go for all the movies, right? But consider what happened after COVID. OTTs has been completely took over, isn't it, right? So we are not going for movie theaters as we are doing, I mean, during a COVID. So but after COVID, so we stick to OTTs, but still we go for theaters very less, uh, obviously for our favorite actors only, right? Just consider what happened here. The customer behavior has been completely changed, isn't it? Let's say you build a machine learning model for this, okay, to predict, okay, what would be the sales of a tickets in theaters or something like that, okay? So if you consider that your customer behavior changes, that means your data has been changed, isn't it? That means your model become useless right now, right? So where is the system that you have built? Whether a system that you have built could able to identify this drift, could able to send the signals to the pipeline that you are built to automatically bring in a new data, to automatically to retrain, right, your machine learning model, automatically to deploy your machine learning model again, right? Whether you have an automatic build, train, and deploy in your pipeline, that's a very important aspect, right? So saying that, let's discuss this particular architecture, right? So what we have today is an automated ML workflow where we do this a general aspect where we have a data, we take a data, prepare a data, train the model, and deploy the model, right? But where is the pipeline, right? That's where we are moving from automated ML workflow to completely incorporated a CI/CD practices. Okay, so let's discuss in order to make this successful, right? To make it run successful in the long run, what are the different tools are part of it? What are the different roles and responsibilities are part of it? Okay, so what are the different tools, right? Let's discuss this. Let's say first, initially, where do we start? Obviously, we start from ML project identification. Let's say your business people sit together, they identified what kind of a project that we're going to do. Let's say all this done. So then let's say we came up with a data. Okay, number one, let's say you have a data, you built a data engineering pipeline, you got a data from your customers somewhere, okay? But here comes the next thing that you need to worry about, right? Let's say your data might change, isn't it? I provided an example of COVID, right? Tomorrow your data might change. That means you'll be having a versions of data. The data before COVID, the data after COVID, isn't it? So then you need to have something called a data version control tools. Okay, so saying this, if we go back to the previous slide that we discussed, right, the challenges, so where is that particular slide? Yeah, here we go. So the challenges, right? Let's now compare that with a normal DevOps, right? In normal DevOps, so we'll be having a source version control tools where we will be versioning our code, right? So each and every time we will be changing our code, that code has to be versioned, right? But when it comes to machine learning, you just don't version your code, you'll be also versioning your data, right? You'll be tracking and versioning your data, and obviously you'll be tracking and versioning your model artifacts and your model. If your data is changing, what does that mean? Your model will also change, right? You will be producing different models. You need to version your model too, isn't it? And model artifacts too along with that. So that's why it's very important. So you need to use there are different data version control tools that is part of it. When it comes to MLOps, I will be introducing to few right now. So let's say now you have a data version control tools being part of it. So now we could able to version our data. So then comes data pre-processing step. So this is where we will be pre-processing your data. Maybe you want to do transformation of your data, right? So all the feature engineering concepts, right? So let's say now you could able to write a code here, right? Isn't it? We write a lot of Python code, R code, C++, whatever it is. As a data scientist or a data engineer, you write different code here, right? So you need to all this script, the code that you're going to write for data pre-processing, and again for model building and model training, we're going to write a lot of Python code, right? We're going to write a code, what is the hyperparameter that we're going to use, right? What are the let's say what kind of a machine that I'm going to use. All these things we will be specifying in a Python code, right? So where am I going to save this code, right? We need to have some code repositories, right? So a general code repository, you need to have something like a GitHub, right, in order to source version control this data, right? So again, so if you can able to see, there are different source and version control tools that you could able to use for your organization again. Okay, so it's completely depends on your organization. Okay, let's say if I'm talking about GitHub, maybe GitHub doesn't work for some other organization. Some other organization might use different source version control tool at the end of the day, right? So all our codes will be stored in our code repository. Then comes, let's say, model artifacts, right? So otherwise, before we getting into model artifacts, then we need to talk about feature store. What do you mean by feature store, right? As the name represents, it's a store where you keep all your features, right? What is this features? Features are variables that you use to teach your machine, right? Let's say I want to predict my electricity bill forecast. So let's say I have a table of features. Let's say I have a current, let's say I have a voltage, let's say I have a previous bill amounts. So this is our an examples of features, for example, right? I used to keep these features in this feature store where I can able to use this feature, where I could able to reuse this feature for model training, and also again I could able to use these features again for model serving, right? Where whenever I want to make some predictions out of it, right? So we can able to use different set of feature stores. Different organization requires different feature stores. AWS as a feature store, GCP as a feature store, Azure as a feature store. And again, there are a lot of organizations uses open source feature stores like Presto, or maybe something that organization has, right? So then let's say we have a features, we trained a machine learning model. Let's say now a machine learning, once you train your machine with the data, it produces a machine learning model and model artifacts, isn't it? Let's say your model will be produced. So then we're going to use something called model registry in order to register that model. So today you might have one model. So tomorrow your data changes, something happens, you will be retraining your model again. So when you have more data, you retrain again and again. You produce many different versions of a model, isn't it? So all this data will be saved in something called model registries. There are different model registries that you could able to use, right, to version your model. So then finally we pick one model which is really good from that model registry. Then we will be deploying it to a production ready environment. Then we do integrate, and we do connect that with to operate, where we build automation, what I'm talking about. So then along with that, we could able to integrate something called automated quality gates. Okay, what is this called? Automated quality gates to check. Let's say before we deploying a model to production, I could able to check the quality of a model. Let's say I'm training a model on top of regression or maybe a classification. Let's say I could able to check, let's say when I'm training a model on top of regression, I might check RMSC score or MSC, MSc score. Let's say I have an MSc score. Let's say I want to keep a threshold. So automated quality gates are conditions where I say, let's say if my MSc score is less than 6, I want to deploy this model to production. Otherwise, I want to register this model to model registry. Otherwise, it won't. Okay. Similar to that, you can able to have a automated quality gates in order to ensure the quality of your data. You could able to create a checkpoints in order to check your data preparation step. Otherwise, if your automated quality gates figured out the quality is less, your pipeline actually stops over there. It won't continue to model building or model training or model deployment actually. So it will stops over there. So this is what it takes to be part of incorporated CI/CD pipeline. So here you understand that data version control, codes repositories, feature store, model registries, training algorithms, training a model, deployment instances, hosting it on servers. There are different things. There are different organizations as different requirements at the end of the day, right? So usually if we talk about this, who will be part of this particular systems, right? So here we go. So it's not the one single person is actually doing everything, right? So developing a successful machine learning project involves varieties of experiences and required extreme collaboration among the teams. You need to answer following questions. Let's say what I'm going to mention right now, to become a success, right, for your organization, right? So it's not just a data scientist. Let's say if you are someone called full stack data scientist, then you are the person doing everything in an organization. Okay, but let's say usually when we talk about corporates, right, MNCs, right? So there will be there here we go, like we have a different set of peoples are allocated for different set of a job actually, right? So let's say we'll be having someone called data analysts, data engineers will be doing different things, right? Before we getting started, let's say first of all, in order to implement this complete MLOps pipeline for your organization where you have a ML project, you need to ensure that do you have a resources first of all, right? That's a very important aspect. Do you have enough resources, right? Do you have enough employees, right? Data scientist is the one, it's not the one person could able to possibly build everything, right? So you need to ensure you have all these resources in your industry. Do you have a data analyst, for example? Basically, let's say when we talk about our data analysts, so they will be working closely with product managers and business teams to derive insights from the user data, from their customer data. So they will be using a lot of different set of tools like SQL, Excel sheets, and a lot of data visualization tools like it may be Power BI or Tableau to figure out what features could able to make sense for our business, right? So then comes our data engineers. We understand what exactly our data engineer does, right? So he will be building a system, right? So infrastructure to collect, transform, pre-process your data, building up data engineering pipelines. He will be using a tools like Spark, Hadoop, ETL tools to make the job happens. So then comes our dear data scientist who will be building a machine learning model, which is going to part of a production, obviously. Then comes, I'm sorry. So then comes the research and applied scientist. So these peoples are very rare. Let's say if you talk about, let's say companies like Google or maybe Microsoft, who is working on a bleeding edge technology, they will be having these roles in their company. Then comes our machine learning engineers. So their work overlaps actually between a data engineers, but they focus largely on ML model and related infrastructures. So they work closely with data scientists and model, I mean, in the process of deploying a model to a production actually. Then comes again a DevOps peoples. Yeah, again, in few companies they call it as machine learning engineers. In few companies they call it as machine MLOps leads, but they don't specifically call it as MLOps, but I just included here. So then comes developers. So who is the last piece of a puzzle, obviously, right? Obviously these peoples are basically going to integrate everything to a main application which is going to deliver a value at the end of the day for our customers at the end of the day, right? So having a simple comparison between a DevOps versus MLOps over here, yeah, let's say in a traditional DevOps systems, let's say all we do is building a generic application, a simple web application that you want to build, an Android application, whatever it is, let's consider that. Okay, so so we'll be using some standard set of libraries, right, for that specific use case, right? And version control involves basically like tracking changes and code and artifacts only. That's the only thing that we will be having in DevOps, right? So let's say the artifacts could be something like an executable jar file, right? So then for validation, we conduct unit test. Okay, so who will be the a few roles will be part of it? Software engineers and DevOps engineers. I didn't specify all the roles, but yeah, so I just specified two important aspects here. Let's say in terms of MLOps, our journey is about building a model to feed the inferences at the end of the day, and we use broad scope of, let's say, tools, languages, and libraries, right? Just imagine we might use pandas, scikit-learn, different libraries to make the job happen, right? So here when it comes to versioning, we version a data, we version model artifacts, I mean we version a, so then we need to have something called model registries, source version control, and more, right? So and if you talk about artifacts, it will be serialized files at the end of the day. And how do we do validation? So we do validation based on a model performance. As I mentioned, you want to check an accuracy, maybe precision recall, RMSE score, MSE score, whatever it is for your use case, right? So the roles would be data engineers, machine learning engineers, otherwise ops team, for example, right? So those are the peoples. Okay, so let's talk about different tools for MLOps right now. Okay, so all we are talking about, so you should be capable of picking a right tool for your organization based on your organization structure at the end of the day. Okay, so there are key features in order to select this particular tools. So maybe you want to choose you want to debate among let's say whether can I go for an open source or a closed source tools, right? So open source tools are always good, isn't it? Yeah, there are organizations uses open source tools, obviously, right? But we need to understand pros and cons on that, obviously. So open source tools are obviously always free, and again, it could be able to integrate with most of your MLOps tools that you're going to use, starting from data versioning to model monitoring. It could be integrated, but so only difficulties could be like you might have very fewer developers inside your team, and understanding open source tools and integrating might take longer time, right? So otherwise you could opt for a platform versus a specific tools, actually a platform based tools for your MLOps projects. What do you mean by platform based tools anyway? So there are a lot of companies, the organizations who offers end-to-end MLOps tools. Basically that's going to be a subscription based system, right? It's a platform based, they got everything inside. Most of the MLOps tools you will find no code or a low code tools are still available in your organization, in those organizations. So all you need to do is, if your company or organization is ready to go with a subscription based system where you're going to pay a subscription per month, per year, you can able to also opt for such kind of a tools again. Then the next thing that you need to look into the tools here is going to be model and production environment monitoring. This is a very important thing, right? So model monitoring comes into the priority here, and again environment monitoring of your entire pipelines that you have built ensures that your bugs are documented and addressed at the end of the day, right? So MLOps teams can able to catch such things like, okay, security and compliance consensus, where you could able to use it for analyzing what's going to happen in the future at the end of the day, right? And more importantly, you need to ensure that the MLOps tool that you're going to build for your organization, or you're going to use some platform-based tools, you need to ensure that it supports model templating and cataloging. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by templating and cataloging here? Very simple. Let's say as an organization, today you might work with one machine learning model, but tomorrow you might work 10, 20, 100. Okay, who is going to get into this hassle of building this pipeline from a scratch again and again? Figure out a data engineering, data version control tool, figure out a source repository, figuring out a feature store, all this stuff. Who is going to get into this hustle, right? That's why the template based workflows always gives a value, right? So let's say you built one successful machine learning pipeline and convert that into a template and make it as a catalog. You could able to use this template again and again and again if you want to build thousands of machine learning pipelines tomorrow, right? You need to ensure that the tool that you're going to pick supports that. Okay, so then comes model training, tuning, and drift management. This is again an important aspect, right? So you need to ensure that let's say usually like many MLOps solution offers this particular feature. I mean automation that you could able to build, automation of automatic model, I mean automatic data preparation, automatic model training, automatic model deployment, automatic model monitoring, right? So there is no need of manual work. So here we are talking about more of an automation, right? Then comes pipeline management, right? And you need to ensure that look for a tool that helps you to manage the pipeline that you have built, could able to send a timely triggers, reminders if there is any code change, if there is any data management required or model building phase. You could able to send some triggers or notifications for your entire team. Then comes collaboration and communication capabilities. This is another important aspect. So here we are talking about MLOps. It's a collaboration between multiple teams. Do you have a communication tool inbuilt inside where you can integrate and send a message like how we do it in a Slack? Otherwise, can that could be integrated with a Slack? Can it be integrated with some other internal communication tools that you might have in your organization? That's a very important aspect, right? So that's another thing. Saying that, let's talk about MLOps on cloud, right? So why cloud in a first hand? Obviously, without a cloud, there is nothing, right? So companies and organizations today moving towards a cloud, right? More, not if you ask them, okay, are you willing to get into on-premises? No, right? So who want to manage your server, infrastructure, network, right? So here in this particular course, okay, so in this particular course, we're going to talk about the top three cloud platforms. We're going to cover top three cloud MLOps tools on these cloud platforms. Yes, we are talking about AWS, Azure, and GCP, right? So we're going to cover this three major players in this particular course. Not just that, more than that also. Let me tell you later. Okay, so we're going to cover MLOps tools on top of AWS by building real-time projects both on AWS, Azure, and GCP, right? So we always ask for more, isn't it? Right? Not just a cloud tools is enough for an organization, right? Still we use open source, right? So we do also cover open source tools in this particular course, right? So let's get started. What are the different set of tools that we discussed for code? It may be source version control, it may be for data version control, for CI/CD, for your data, for your production monitoring, all those stuff. Okay, so let's say we talk about source version control. We used to use different set of tools. We might use github, it may be Bitbucket, it may be a AWS code commit, it may be the repositories on Google or maybe in Azure, right? Different organizations have different requirements. At the end of the day, every source version control tools works based on Git, right? The same code, the same way that you operate with GitHub, the same commands could able to apply for other tools as well, right? So then comes talking about continuous integration and continuous deployment, CI/CD, right? So basically, it's a step that you perform in order to deliver a new feature, right? So let's say when it comes to software, we want to release a new feature tomorrow, right, for your web application, right? Otherwise, when it comes to machine learning model, maybe you want to deploy a new model. Maybe you want to release a new version of a model tomorrow, right? So CI/CD, let's say in terms of traditional DevOps practices, it's going to be again a practices focusing on improving a software development lifecycle, right? So yeah, so there are a different set of tools that we might use, starting from, let's say, when you have a code, setting up a trigger for building. So then let's say your build will start, your code building will start. Let's say if your build process is successful, maybe we need some set of a tools to notify, okay, the build is successful right now. Then you will be building a automation, I mean the code test. You want to run some tests to ensure everything is fine in your code. Then finally, if your test has also been cleared, then finally you want to deliver, to build that and put it in an environment, I mean where you could able to serve that to customer at the end of the day, right? Very simplest example in a very simple layman terms, here we go. Okay, let's say we have a simple web application. Let's say where we have let's say consider it's an e-commerce website where we have a button which is in a green color. Let's say customers click on that pay now button in order to purchase a product. Okay, so based on a customer feedback, customers didn't like, let's say, a green color button, they like, let's say, a red color button, right? Let's say here we have a code pipeline integrated with, let's say, a code version, I mean source version control like Git tools, and then we have our code build, code artifacts and code deployment tools integrated with that. And let's say here we have, let's say, staging and production environment. Otherwise, let's say we have dev and production environment. So where we have our developer writes a code and he pushes the code, and where after then we will be having a building and artifacts and deployment stage. Then finally it will be deploying our application to a web server, to a development environment, right? So let's say now developers could able to see that, okay, whether the code that I written, which is in the button, I change it to a red color, whether it is displaying in a red color or not, right? And once developers could able to check if everything is going fine in his application, then finally he pushes that the same code again, he pushes that application to be deployed to a production, right, in the next stage where we deploy that into a production. So now our production users now could able to see the new version of a code that we released where the button is in a red color, right? As much as in a very layman terms at the end of the day. So the same kind of a CI/CD process should be followed for ML, otherwise MLOps, right? Here we will be having a different stages, right? Let's say again we will be having a code repositories where we'll be having a code to train a model, to prepare a data, right, to hyper tune your model. So all our code, a Python code, will sit in our repository. So then we'll be having a different stages. Here is our a processing step where we will be performing a feature engineering. So the feature engineering is done, so then we'll be performing a model training. So this is our training step. So once our model training is over, then finally we will be doing model evaluation. So this is where we evaluate our model. The model is built, whether it is making a proper predictions or not. So then we implement a quality gate. If you remember, we discussed about a quality gate. Here we will check the evaluation result that is produced. Let's say I just calculated my MSC score of my machine learning model. I'm just checking if my MSC score is greater than 6. I want to register this model to model registry. Otherwise, I don't want to register that model to model registry. As simple as that. So now I have my model in a model registry. Then I will be using a code pipeline tools. Let's say it may be Jenkins, for example. It may be on top of AWS. We call it as AWS code pipeline, otherwise Azure-based pipelines. I use it to build and deploy our model into a hosting environment, right? So once the model is hosted, again in the same fashion where I deployed my model into a staging, I could able to deploy my model to a dev and production over here. I could able to plug in my model monitoring tools where it could able to keep on monitoring my model for data drift and concept drift at the end of the day, right? So in order to make it possible, there are different set of CI/CD tools what cloud platform offers. Let's say in AWS code commit, AWS code pipeline, it may be code build, it may be code deploy. Let's say if you're talking about GCP, we talk about the cloud, Google Cloud source repositories. It may be a code build on a GCP. It may be artifact registry for registering your artifacts. Let's say it may be code deploy for code building, such like that. So when we talk about Azure has a set of tools for automating to build a CI/CD, starting from Azure boards to, let's say, Azure repositories where you put in a code, where you have Azure artifacts to artifacts your model. Then we have Azure pipelines, and then comes Azure test plans where you could able to build a test for your models at the end of the day. Saying that again, Dockers and Kubernetes again playing another important role. So Dockerizing your application and using Kubernetes to deploy your machine learning model, maybe on a cloud platforms like GCP, it may be on Azure, it may be on AWS. Like in AWS, we use something called EKS. Again, it's a Kubernetes service at the end of the day. So then comes, you might need model management tools, obviously, right? So we talk about data version control, right? So we want to version our data. Before COVID, we have a different data. After COVID, we might have different data. So we might use something called DVC, a data version control, which is an open source tool, which is used by a lot of different organizations at the end of the day. So then again, we talk about another open source tool, an ML flow, which is used by a lot of enterprises in production today. So which is for experiment tracking, and again using ML flow as let's say model registry. And again, you could also use Git large file storage again for versioning your data, could be also possible. So it is not enough, right? Still, we need to talk about feature stores, right? You need to build a feature store where you can able to build features that could be able to consumed for your model training, and the same features that it could be consumed for model serving, right? So there are different set of feature stores that is available in industry today. It may be SageMaker provided feature store. It may be Vertex AI feature store. It may be that you want to build along with Databricks. It may be Festo that you want to use. Again, it's an open source tool that we're going to cover. It may be HubWorks. It may be you want to build your own feature store along with, let's say, if you want to use DynamoDB along with S3, you could come up with your own feature store completely from the scratch, right? There are different possibilities. And let's say when we talk about a cloud ML services, so we have different tools which could able to make your ML pipeline possible, but still you need to have a machine learning services on top of a cloud, which is used for building, training your machine learning model, right? We use a SageMaker, AWS SageMaker along with SageMaker Studio. It may be the Vertex AI from GCP. It may be Azure Machine Learning Studio from Azure Cloud Platform. Otherwise, you want to use Kubeflow to come up with your own pipeline where you could able to integrate multiple MLOps tools along with that, still possible. Kubeflow is again a great framework many organization uses to make their machine learning models into production. So then comes model monitoring, right? So when we talk about different kind of cloud platforms here, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. So each and every cloud platform offers different set of monitoring tools in order to monitor your models in a production for data and concept drifts. Otherwise, you could also use open source tools like Evidently AI, so that you could be able to plug in to extract model monitoring reports. Otherwise, so this is where AutoML tools comes into the picture. So this is where a platform-based tools what I'm talking about. So platform-based tools are more of a subscription-based system. So where they provide all the tools integrated with that. It may be a tools like Isgazio, it may be Domino Data Labs, Olaha, it may be H2O AI, Neptune AI, or it may be Weights and Biases. All these platforms are subscription-based systems. There are few organizations uses this, and few organizations use along with this tools. They use again cloud-based tools. It completely depends on the organization needs actually. Okay, so now we have everything: feature store, data version control, source code repositories. Let's consider that we have deployed our machine learning models into production. So what is the challenges that we face after post deployment, right? So after deployment, there are challenges related to software engineering. There is challenges related to machine learning engineering. So what do you mean by challenges in a software engineering related? I mean, you need to ensure once you deploy your machine learning model, you need to have a proper load balancer that could able to auto scale. Again, a different concept. Whether you have configured your models under auto scale, it could able to manage the traffics from your clients, right? There are more things that you could able to discuss. So more challenges related to ML. It's going to be monitoring for data drift and concept drift, and sending a signal again back to your pipeline, those things. And again, challenges related to deploying your model not on a cloud, not on a hybrid cloud, deploying your models completely on edge, right? It maybe you want to deploy a model on Raspberry Pi, for example, right? Something like that. Okay, so this is what it takes. This is what it takes to an organization to become success, and this is what exactly what we're going to learn in this course. And before we getting started, I have arranged a very small demo in order to show you the pipeline that I have built, where I could able to show you a simple demo for you. So I have built a simple pipeline on top of AWS. Let's try to understand a simple glimpse of what is really happening. So I hope you remember the architecture that we discussed. So let's say, so this is the exact architecture that is getting followed. So where I have, let's say, a feature engineering step, model training step, model evaluation step, and let's say then we have a condition step where I'm checking whether I want to deploy whether I want to register my model to model registry or not, along with a code repository. Okay, let's get started. I will just show you the pipeline that I built, so it will be interesting for you to check out. Okay, so here I'm in a SageMaker Studio, which is again a complete end-to-end MLOps pipeline building tool. So here is the project that I built, that is demo MLOps. So here I built a simple machine learning model, which is trained on top of regression. So let's say the use case is going to be predicting age of an abalone. Okay, abalone is again a kind of a sea snail. Okay, it's a kind of a seafood where I'm trying to predict what would be the age of an abalone based on my data that I trained. Okay, so here I have a blogs where I have something called repositories, pipelines, experimentations, model groups, endpoints, and settings. So here is the repository. The step number one, if you check out the slide, the step number one is a repository. So where I have a code to train a model, to deploy a model. So here you could able to see I have a two set of a code, one for model building, another code is for model deployment. Okay, so I use this code in order to train my model, to deploy my model. So here is my pipeline that I built. You could able to see I have one pipeline where I given a name as demo MLOps, some random ID. If I double click it, so here I have my pipeline, right? So just imagine that our pipeline will execute a couple of times, isn't it? Our pipeline is not going to execute only once. Let's say whenever there is a change in your data, let's say whenever you want to retrain your machine learning model, whenever you want to produce a new version of a model, your pipeline will execute. So here I have our pipeline executed only once. You could able to see a stats here. If I double click it, here we go. Here is my pipeline that I built. Okay, so here we go. You could able to check out the few steps in my model building phase. Here is my step one. Here I did pre-processing my abalone data. So I downloaded my data, I pre-processed it. All I did in pre-processing, I splitted my data into training, validation, and testing data. That's a step number one. So I pre-processed the data and I stored this data in some kind of a storage platform where I can able to use it for model training later. So then in step number two, So let's say I have my training, validation, and testing data. So this is where I train my abalone model based on regression. So once my model has been trained, so then comes I extract a metrics out of it where I calculated RMSE on my training data and RMSE on my validation data. That's what exactly you could able to see. And obviously, once our machine learning model is trained, then we will be having something called machine learning model, isn't it? So this is where I have my machine learning model that you could able to see. Model.tar.gz. AWS always exports a model into model.tar.gz, and it will store it into S3. It's a storage platform. Okay, so now I have pre-process is done, our model training is done. What is next? So then comes evaluation step. I need to decide whether I want to deploy this model or not, whether it is up to the quality or not. So this is where I am calculating my I'm evaluating my machine learning model by calculating again MSC score, not RMSE. I'm calculating my MSC score, and again I'm calculating a standard deviation. Okay, so here I have extracted my results as a JSON file to a storage platform again. Okay, so now I have my evaluation results, and this is what I'm talking about, a quality gate. Okay, so I have my evaluation results. Based on that evaluation results, I'm going to compare that evaluation results, then I'm going to decide whether I want to deploy this model to model registry or not. So here in check MSc abalone evaluation, I'm just checking whether my MSc score, okay, the mean square error, whether it is less than 6 or not. If it is less than 6, I want to register my model to model registry. So this is what I'm talking about, register abalone model to model registry. Okay, so now this pipeline has been executed, and you could able to see the green buttons. I mean, the green color represents my pipeline has been executed successfully. So according to that particular graph, my model is supposed to be registered under a model registry. If I go to model groups, otherwise if I go to experiments, you could able to track all the experiments that I conducted here. Let's say there are 3 kinds of an experiments that I conducted. So one is for pre-processing job. There are 2 pre-processing jobs, and there is one let's say training job. So you could able to see I done a pre-processing job on my data, and I did a pre-processing for my evaluation. Then I did pre-processing for training a model. So that's what you could able to track it here. Then you could able to see under a model groups, you could able to see there's a one group which is created which says demo MLOps. That's my model group. If I double click it, and here we go, this is the model registry what I'm talking about. So this is where you will be versioning your models. So you could able to see after my quality gate has given a green signal for to deploy my model to model registry, you could able to see my first version of a model. If I double click it, you could able to see here my model is waiting for my approval. So you could able to see, let's say if I am an MLOps engineer, otherwise I am from an operations team where I have a hierarchy to approve this model, all I do is here I will hit update status, then I will change the option to approved from pending approval, then I hit update status. That's it. So now I am deploying my model to staging. Actually, haven't deployed my model to production yet. Okay, so now you can able to see I am deploying my model to staging environment. So once your model is deployed, you could able to check out your endpoints in SageMaker Studio. This is where you could able to find out something called endpoint URL, otherwise an endpoint name, where your endpoint will be an HTTPS URL where your developers could able to use it to build a client-side application again. Okay, so now I showed you guys how to approve a model and deploy it to a staging. Now I'm going to show you how to approve the model and deploy it to a production environment. Okay, so I'm going to use, I'm going to use a tool called Code Pipeline, which is a CI/CD tool on top of AWS. So it's going to use a code pipeline. It's again, let's say it has a inbuilt code build and code deploy. It's an alternative to Jenkins. Again, it's exactly similar to Jenkins. So I'm going to use this code pipelines in order to approve my model to deploy it to a production. So if I come to my code pipeline, you could able to see that I have one pipeline which says in process. If I go inside that, you should able to see the pipeline that we have built. So just imagine we have a code sitting in our code repository. Then we did building the entire environment. So then we are supposed to deploy that to a production environment. So still we could able to see that our deployment is still in the process actually. So I'm going to wait it till it's going to be the build process getting completed. So in the meantime, we could able to check it out whether my staging model is getting deployed or not. Okay, so let's give it a try. So I can also go to my SageMaker under inferences. If I go to endpoints, here I could also check out whether my endpoint is getting deployed or not. So let us give it a time for it to deploy my endpoint. Okay, so you can able to see that my version is approved. Okay, so this is how the things work. Once I deploy my, once I could able to deploy my endpoint into staging, I could able to take that URL, the endpoint URL. Otherwise, let's say I could able to take an endpoint name. I could able to integrate that with my application in order to generate what? In order to generate obviously the predictions, isn't it? So now you could able to see under endpoint, it says creating. It's going to take a minute in order to create an endpoint. In the meantime, we will go back to the slides and we will discuss more and we will come back. Okay, so now we had a quick demo of how I build a pipeline, how I approved my model to staging, and still I haven't approved my model to production. And I showed you I have a code in my repository over there, right? Saying that, now let us take a look how MLOps jobs industries looks like, right? So there is always a lot of confusion in industries between the different roles and responsibilities who are part of MLOps machine learning pipelines here. So who will be part of MLOps first of all? That's a great question. That's a question always we have. Who will be part of MLOps? Who should learn MLOps first of all, right? So these are the peoples usually. So data scientist, obviously, right? So data scientists will be part of our pipelines here. Data engineers and data analysts will be part of this. Research and applied scientists. So this comes, okay, the MNCs who are working on cutting edge technologies. ML engineers, DevOps engineers can be part of it. So aspiring MLOps professionals and the enthusiasts. So otherwise, machine learning professionals who are looking for deploying a model into a production, and they want to ensure that, okay, they want to deploy it, they want to run it successfully in the future. So anyone who are interested to learn Dockers, Kubernetes, or AWS, Azure, GCP, or maybe tools like DVC, Presto, or MLOps, who are focusing completely into getting into building full-fledged MLOps pipelines for their organization, they need to focus. Obviously, any interested professionals who want to AI, MLOps is a final destination, isn't it? MLOps is a one which is going to ensure the success of your industry at the end of the day. But here, as I mentioned, there are still companies they hire specifically calling a role called lead MLOps engineer. We are seeing these roles in our industry. People used to call it as a lead MLOps engineers. Will be someone managing all the teams here, but MLOps is should be a part of your existing resumes. That's the information. If you're a data scientist, but still, if you don't have MLOps sitting on your resume, just imagine what we discussed, right? Just imagine what's going to happen in 2024. What is exactly the industry is traveling into, right? 75% of organization will shift from piloting to operationalization of your AI by end of 2024. That means they will be start looking for skills today, or they might be already start looking for skills from existing candidates who are into data science, or maybe data engineers or ML professionals who are already, okay? So that's a demand. Okay, if you check out a bit of statistics that we got from a Glassdoor or from, let's say, figr.com, so you could able to see an average salary of an MLOps, someone who has the MLOps skills. Okay, I'm not specifically talking someone who is an MLOps lead engineer or a role specifically to MLOps, someone who has MLOps skills in their resume. So let's say an average salary, someone who is working in abroad, let's say US or maybe Singapore or maybe UK in the reference, it's going to start from $94,522. And let's say if you're looking specific to India, an average salary would be 23.1 lakhs. That's a reality. And again, this is not a random data that we have got. It's an analyzed profile. So what figr.com does, they take multiple profiles and they take an average out of it. You could able to see this is an average from 12 verified profiles from different MNCs, and depends on the percentage. Let's say 33% of people get 10 to 20 lakhs, and again max you could able to see 20 to 30 lakhs 42% of stakeholders, you could able to see 30 to 40, 25% of people. So you consider the amount of experience that you have, and again, you will be jumping from that particular salary range actually. So, and again, the trend for MLOps job vacancy, it's still picking up, obviously, right? Because it's nowhere stopping, because everyone, just consider that last decade, everyone into AI, every organization's into AI. So now they want to bring a revenues into their company. In order to do that, they need a solid pipelines, right? But still the demand will start picking up in 2023 also. Okay, so that's the thing. So this is where the peak is, and this is where the hype is for you to learn MLOps. And saying that, we will go to our platform again. So now you could able to see that our model is deployed. It says in service. If I go to my SageMaker console too, you could able to see it says my model is deployed. I will also go to my code pipelines. Let's see if I could able to make some changes here. Okay, you could able to see here my build process is done right now. You could able to see previously my build is in blue color, and now you could able to see deploying staging. So you could able to see here it is waiting for my approval. Here I will simply hit review, and here I will just type some messages. Okay, I want to deploy to production. I will just mention prod, and I will hit approve. So now you could able to see my pipeline started executing again. It's deploying my model to production actually. Okay, so you could able to see now I could able to use the model that is deployed. Okay, so if this is my staging model, not my production. So I'm going to use it to generate some inferences. Okay, you can able to see this is my endpoint name, and you could able to see this is my endpoint URL that I could able to use it, provide it to developers to build application. So now I'm going to use my endpoint name. Here I have a simple Jupyter notebooks where I written a code in order to start generating an inferences from my machine learning model that I deployed. Okay, I'm going to save it. Okay, so now I'm going to hit run, and here we go. We are getting an age of an abalone. Okay, so all I did, so here the code script is already configured. All I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out the age of an abalone. Okay, there are some few features. There are 8 features that I'm going to pass it as an input. Considering that 8 features, it's going to mention what is the age of an abalone. Okay, it says 10. Okay, so now I could able to generate a predictions out of it. Isn't it awesome, right? So again, if I go to my endpoints console, you could, if I do refresh, you could able to see my production model is getting deployed. So it says demo MLOps prod. Okay, so let's say if I want to kick in my pipeline again, if I want to do automatic build, automatic train, and automatic deploy again, all I need to do, make some changes to the code, deploy that to, I mean, push that code to repository. So my pipeline could able to automatically recognize there is a code change. It will automatically start running the pipeline once again, starting from data preparation. Just imagine going back to the slides here. So if I start committing a new changes, let's say in my code, I set up some thresholds. Let's say I'm setting a threshold for my MSc score. Let's say my MSc score is 6. I have trained a model, but I'm not satisfied. Let's say I want to change it to a 5. Then I push the code back to my repository, right? I push the code back to my repository. My MLOps pipeline that I built on top of SageMaker Studio could able to recognize there is a changes. It will again start doing feature engineering. Again, it will do model training automatically, not manually. It will again automatically doing model evaluation, then registering the new version, the second version of a model to production. Okay, so again, then it will, again, I need a manual approval where I approve a model to staging, where I approve a model to a production. That's it, in the same way what I showed you. So if I get a time, obviously I will show it once again for you guys. Okay, so we will discuss more. So this is how a simple demo looks like. So now we will go further and let's see, let's learn more about this course. Okay, so, and you can able to see the amount of transformation that is happening in industry is really fast, right? Isn't it? Just consider that last decade, everyone working into getting into machine learning, they are getting into solving a customer's problem. Now industries want to get it into making a revenue process. For that, they need a solid machine learning pipeline, right? So this is a quick transformation example. Just imagine in just 10 years, like from 2009, if you see, like, you should able to see a choppers and a cameraman, a reporter, a news reporter, like going here and there just to cover a news up, right? So this particular industry, it's been just transformed within 10 years, right? Drones, for example, completely taken over an industry, right? So that such kind of a transformation is happening today in machine learning or artificial intelligence, what we are talking about. And again, now 2023 is a year of MLOps. That's what exactly industry says and expert says. Okay, so in next 5 years and maybe next 2 years, as the statistics mentioned in 2024, there are a lot of changes going to comes to the picture. 75% of industries will be moving into production. That means companies are looking forward for making revenues out of models they have built from last 10 years. Okay, so this is where our course comes into the picture, a complete specialization course on MLOps for 40 hours. Okay, so our course, as I mentioned, it's going to start from 28th of January. It's going to for 40 hours, and all we mention, all our courses going to be a live hands-on courses. That's a unique. So what do you mean by live hands-on? So this course is going to be inclusive of 40 hours of live session, 5+ hands-on labs, 5 real-time industry projects. Consider that a project on AWS, Azure, GCP using open source tools here. And again, more specifically, it's going to be live. Okay, it's not that, okay, I build a project and you go to home, watch the recording, you build it. No, it's going to be live. Whatever I replicate on my screen, you're going to replicate literally on your screen. That's how it's going to work. Okay, so this is how the things work. And now let's discuss about, so what's the pricing for this course, right? Obviously, we could able to see there are different set of peoples, data engineers, data analysts, machine learning engineers, DevOps peoples, right? You guys all come from a different industries, which comes with the different requirements, right? We made it as a different plans here to make it more feasible for you guys and affordable for you guys. Okay, so we have 3 different plans: basic plan, advanced plan, and advanced plus plan. So based on your requirement, you can pick what exactly that works for you. Here we go. So our actual price of our course starts from 35,000 rupees. That is 34,999 rupees for advanced plus. And let's say we have an advanced plan where it is just starting from 30,000 rupees. Otherwise, we have a basic plan just starting from 25,000 rupees. So, but what is the difference here? Okay, so we have basic, advanced, and advanced plus. What's the difference? Okay, here is the thing. Okay, irrespective of whatever the plan you buy, okay, whether you go for basic or advanced plus, doesn't matter. Each and every participants, they're going to learn, they're going to attend live sessions. Everyone is going to receive a recordings and other information. So what's the only difference here for advanced and advanced plus is something like this. So let's say if you're purchasing an advanced plan, you get a 6 months of job support. What do you mean by that? It's a purely a technical support that we are providing. Let's say once completing this course, you might be working in a company where you have a task from your hierarchy of your peoples in your organization. Let's say you want to build a feature store for your organization, but let's say you have a deadline of 7 days, but still you need someone to mentor you, guide you, or maybe you need some consulting out of it. Maybe you have some errors that you want to rectify. You get we could able to support you as part of this premium job support, so to help you. Okay, so this is a job support. As part of a job support, we cannot build a project behalf of you or code the entire project behalf of you. Okay, purely it's a technical support that we're offering, okay, which will help you to leverage in your a job very easily. Let's say you have a task that is deadline for 7 days, you should possibly complete that within 4 days. You could able to complete that actually, right? So not only that, okay, so folks, stay till end of this session. Okay, there are some more awesome things. Okay, there are free takeaways. You can able to download a free machine learning eBooks where you can learn about the right practices, how other companies are implemented. If you stay till end of this webinar, you're going to receive that. And again, we have a new year offer. We haven't announced it. Okay, still our prices are less, but still there is a new year offer. Stay till end of this session so you get it. Okay, okay, then again, if you're again purchasing like advanced plan, you can able to retake this course once again for free. What do you mean by that? Let's say you're registering for this batch, but let's say we are conducting our next batch somewhere around March or April. You can retake this course once again a free in next batch. Why do you do that? Maybe there is a new updates in our course. Maybe you want to learn it. A refresh you're looking forward. Yes, that perfectly works, right? And again, one difference here for Advanced Plus. In Advanced Plus, you get 1 year of job support instead of 6 months. And again, you can take a free retake. Okay, but let's discuss about other features that we are offering. Okay, so everyone will be eligible for live sessions. Everyone is going to receive a recordings and a free ebooks. You can attend a lot of upcoming webinars as part of MLOps or maybe machine learning. Further, job updates, very importantly. So job updates, irrespective of a plan, we do update a lot of jobs through our groups that you're going to be part of, or maybe in our website. So these jobs are specific to what you have learned from this course, or maybe specific to the cloud. We'll be keep on updating. There are some people's research people's, I mean, all they do is just to figure out the right job for you. We'll be keep on updating you, and obviously interview questions, we'll be sharing a lot of that, and everyone is going to get a community support, right? As a community standard, we support all the peoples. Resume preparation, we're going to help for every participants reviewing it, or maybe changes, considering where you are stand right now. Maybe you are a 10 years work experience guy. Let's say let's say you have a salary of somewhere around 20 lakhs per annum, for example. Let's say your target should be somewhere around 30 lakhs per annum, 20 lakhs, 27 lakhs per annum. How does your resume should looks like, right? We help you to structure that. Okay, so this is the price, and let's say if you're looking for prices in USD, if you're joining from US or maybe some other countries, your pricing will look something like this. A basic price just starts from $309. An advanced plan starts from $369, and so advanced plus looks like $429. Okay, so here comes a surprise. Actually, as I mentioned, a New Year offer, right? As I mentioned, it's a New Year offer. It comes along with some strings attached. Let's say if you're registering by end of 9th of January, that is next Monday, if I'm not wrong. Okay, if you're registering by next 9th Jan, you can able to claim this offer. Let me tell you what is that offer. Here we go. If you're registering by 9th of January, let's say you pick whatever the plan you need. Let's say if you're interested in advanced plan, don't buy advanced plan, just buy basic plan. We will be upgrading you to advanced plan completely for free. Just imagine you could able to save 5,000 rupees on it. You get 6 months of job support. Okay, so you register for basic, we upgrade you to advanced plan. Otherwise, you're looking for advanced plus plan, don't register for advanced plus, register for advanced plan. We will be upgrading you to advanced plan for free. Okay, so this is how it works. Okay, now we will discuss about the curriculum that we are offering. I will be also sharing a registration links to you and the place where you can able to download the curriculum. So here we go. Okay, so I'm going to share this PDF anyway for you guys. You can able to check it out later. So you can able to read out all the informations here, what we discussed. Okay, so now we will get into the actual program. So yeah, you can able to read out other informations who can apply how the structure works, and here we go. So there are multiple modules that we will be covering in this course. The first module will be introduction to MLOps. So this is where again what we're going to dig deep into MLOps, what is really MLOps, and what is the high level view again, and comparing with, so we know what is exactly DevOps is, and what is really about AI ops. What is this model ops? What is this GitOps, right? We again getting deep into that, and again we're going to discuss about a lot of CI/CD production case studies, how existing organization runs their CI/CD pipelines very successfully, right? So then comes introduction to ML and MLOps stages. This is where we're going to talk about MLOps maturity models. There are different levels of maturity models, what every organization, how they move step by step into building this ML pipeline. Then we're going to talk about in detail about what is versioning, what is testing, what is this automation, what is this reproducibility, what is this monitoring, and more, right? And we're going to discuss about MLOps architecture. We're going to do a lot of comparison between how does an open source architecture looks like and what is a cloud native architecture looks like in with AWS, Azure, and GCP, right? So those things, and again, Then we're going to get started with the Git, obviously. So obviously, whatever the source version controls that you're going to take, the Git tools will remain same. The same code, the same commands works for everything. We're going to dig deep into Git, and then comes introduction to CI/CD. We're going to explore all the CI/CD tools that we just discussed in our slides, right? We're going to discuss all the DevOps tools on top of AWS, GCP, like maybe Azure DevOps tools included. Okay, so then comes Dockers and Kubernetes, right? How to Dockerize your application, how to use Dockers or maybe Kubernetes to deploy your machine learning model, maybe on a cloud, maybe on premises, right? On an edge. So we're going to dig deep into Dockers and uh, uh, Kubernetes. So then comes the Kubernetes deployment strategy. This is where we're going to learn about the right practices, how you could able to monitor, and how we're going to deploy a model on AWS EKS. That means Amazon Kubernetes service. So we're going to use a Kubernetes on top of AWS. We're going to deploy a one model on top of it. So that's going to be a real-time project. So then comes introduction to model management. So this is where we're going to talk about model management tools like data version control tools, code version tools, experimental tracking, model registries, model monitoring tools, and more specifically, we're going to talk about the high-level overview of tools like MLflow. I'm going to show you what is MLflow, how to install it, how to train a model by using MLflow, how to experiment, how we could able to track an experiment, how to register a model, and obviously end to end on top of DVC, how you could able to use DVC to version a data, store it on top of S3, store it on top of Google Drive, something like that. You could able to use DVC and you could have a multiple storage for it. And again, getting into Git large files also. Then comes a feature store module. So this is where we're going to learn what is exactly feature store, and we also going to build a feature store. So we're going to discuss about various feature stores that is used by many different organizations. It may be a SageMaker feature store, it may be a Vertex AI, it can be Databricks that you could able to use, it may be a Presto or HubWorks that you could able to use. So we're going to use Presto open source feature store. We're going to deploy it, and we're going to see how we could able to build a feature, how we could able to use it for model training and for model serving. And alternatively, we can also we're going to check out what is this offline feature store, what is this online feature store, how you could able to build it by using DynamoDB and S3, right? So then comes Cloud ML Services 101. So this is where we're going to discuss and build a real-time projects on Amazon SageMaker, a studio, like whatever the pipeline that I showed you guys, you going to build it along with me into it. Okay. So then again, we're going to use on top of Google Cloud Platform, we're going to use Vertex AI to build, train, and deploy your end-to-end machine learning on top of it, along with a feature store, and again using that platform to monitoring your model. And again, then comes Azure MLOps. We're going to use Azure Machine Learning Studio to build, train, and deploy your MLOps pipeline end to end. So then comes a Kubeflow module. So this is where we're going to use alternatively for, we're going to use a Kubeflow to build a Kubeflow pipeline. So along with that, where you're going to have a multiple MLOps pipeline to deliver a model, right? So then comes a model monitoring. So this is where we're going to talk about open source model monitoring, and again cloud-based model monitoring tools, how you could able to use these tools to monitor your infrastructure, how you could able to use it to monitor your data drift and concept drift. So then comes introduction to AutoML. So this is where we're going to talk about different AutoML tools that are available in the industry, and what's the benefit of it. And if possible, we will also try to provide a demo on top of it. So I will be sharing this demo wherever I mention hands-on. That means that particular module going to conduct a lot of hands-on exercises. Okay. So then comes our last module, that is post deployment challenges. Okay, so let's say you have deployed your model to a production. What are the challenges that organizations going to address? Maybe the challenges related to machine learning, challenges related to software engineering, or maybe the challenges that you face once you deploy a model to your edge, and how you could able to use open source tools like Evidently AI to monitor your drifts, right, on a production ready environment, or how you could able to use SageMaker to monitor your model on on the drift that has been produced. Okay, so this is the curriculum that we will be covering. And so these are the skills that we're going to be mastered, and these are the tools that we're going to learn. So you could able to check out in detail, you could able to check out other details. And so why Site1 technologies, FAQ, all those stuff. So you can able to check. Okay, so we are not new to this platform. We have done a lot of trainings, even on MLOps masterclasses, complete certification programs on AWS. You could able to figure out how does our participants feels based on our training, right? After training, how do they feel? You could able to check it out. So each and every people's will be part of our WhatsApp group tomorrow. So these are the conversations that you could able to check it out in our groups. Yeah. So saying that, so let me quickly share the download links for you, so you can able to yeah, I'm going to share the 3 links in a chat window. Okay, here we go. I have shared. The first link is for registration. If you open that link, it will be going to a platform called Townscript. This is where we have hosted our payment gateway. And yeah, once you go to this platform, you could able to check out the poster, anyway, the curriculum over here. And if you hit book now, you should able to find all the 3 different tickets here. I mean, if you are from, let's say, India, you can able to select Indian participants tickets for basic, advanced, and advanced plus. If you're from international participants, you're not from India, so then you can select ticket price in dollars over here. Okay, so the second link is for downloading a course curriculum. Once you hit the second link, you will be automatically redirected and downloaded this particular PDF. And the third link, the final link, is for downloading the free machine learning ebooks, as I promised. Okay, so this is all about our session, so don't miss it. So make sure that, okay, so it lets you sit on top of an industry. I mean, so where you can able to become a complete MLOps specialized person, where you will be having a capabilities to build MLOps pipeline for any kind of an industry that you're going to work tomorrow. So that's an ultimate takeaway for any participants going to take this particular course. Okay, so now I will open my session to Q&A. If you guys have any questions, so I can able to answer you. Okay, so go ahead. If you have questions, you can able to unmute your mic. You can able to talk to me. Otherwise, you can also feel free to mention it in the chat window. I'm here to answer. So if you're, yeah, if you're trying to speak through a mic, you can just mention your name and your role. Then you can ask your question. Go ahead. Okay, you could also see that our model has been deployed to production also. So if I want to generate inferences of the model that has been deployed to production, all I do is copy paste this particular endpoint in my code and I save it. So I could able to generate the same, yeah, inference out of it. Okay, so this is about it. Please let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm here to answer. You can able to unmute your mic and you can talk to me. Go ahead. Obviously, right, Kiran asked a question, does this demo, I mean, does this demo involves any deep learning models? I mean, okay, so in this demo, we have just trained a simple regression model. But yeah, irrespective of whatever the model that you're trying, let's say, Kiran. So this pipelines that we're going to learn in this course, you could able to build, let's say, sorry. So it may be deep learning based models, it may be NLP based models. You could able to fit in any kind of a models at the end of the day. So Joy asked a question, thanks for informative session. I'm a data scientist. I have some idea of working with ML flow for experiment tracking. What would you say when comparing with ClearML? That's awesome. So, okay, so there are different set of tools that are available, Joy. I mean, so ClearML is again on a different tool that you could able to use. Again, if you see MLOps also, sorry, ML flow also has its own restrictions, right? So you could able to track your experiments. You could able to use it for model registries, but still, let's say when we talk about high level model monitoring, and again, so you might need some data version control tools. ML flow is not a right process, right? So still organization use ML flow, and again a clear ML. There are different set of tools that are available. So it depends on what you need, right? So let's say ML flow does these things: experiment tracking, model registry. But look, if you're looking for data version control, what are you going to use, right? You need a feature store. What are you going to use, right? So Rajesh asked a question, any job opportunities? I mean, as I mentioned, yes, we do update these jobs. Once completing a course, we'll be keep on updating these jobs relevant to what companies are looking forward from, especially the skills that you are learned from this course. Yeah. So what's the duration of this course? 40 hours. That's the thing. 40 hours minimum, what we are mentioning here. Why am I telling minimum of 40 hours? So it's going to be more of a live hands-on session. Again, you will be doing a hands-on along with me. So we are expecting a 40 hours max, but worst case scenario, we might take another weekend. So let's say it's going to be a 5 weekends. Currently, it might go to the 6 weekend. And let's say if you're looking for the exact schedule, it will be something like this: every Saturday and Sunday we're going to have this session. All these dates that you're seeing, it's only on Saturday and Sunday. This will be your time zones. Let's say if you're joining from India, so your time is going to be 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. So every 4 hours a day, obviously. So every 4 hours a day, and every Saturday, Sunday we're going to have a session. Every Monday you're going to receive a recordings. So that's how it's going to work. And throughout a week, we're going to also arrange one-on-one debugging session. So let's say in case if you have any questions or doubts, if you couldn't do some hands-on during a session, you stuck somewhere, we will arrange a debugging session, so you can connect and you could able to resolve your questions or doubts. Anyway, we'll be supporting 24/7 in a WhatsApp always. Yeah, that's the thing. Please let me know if you guys have any questions. Feel free to answer. I mean, I will be answering all your questions. I will be sparing few more minutes. Go ahead and ask all your questions. I'm here to help. Okay, go ahead. If you're willing to unmute your mic, if you want to discuss something else, yeah, feel free to unmute your mic and we can talk. Okay, so Rajesh asked another question. So is there any discounts? Yes, so we have this offer currently. So as I mentioned, so let's say if you're looking for maybe like advanced or maybe advanced plus plan, so just by registering for basic plan, you get advanced plan, where we'll be doing a free upgrade. So where you'll be saving around 5,000 rupees in Indian rupees. What I could say, this is the current offer that we have. We don't have specifically any discount on that. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, someone is trying to talk. Yeah, yeah. If I'm not wrong, it should be Akil. Hi, Akil. Okay, so Sai has asked a question: how MLOps would add a value for someone who want to get starting as a data scientist in MNCs, have a prior experience in delivering intern projects. Okay, but let me just give an answer, a more general answer, which will be applied for many peoples. Okay, so you could able to see according to the industrial statistics. So by end of 2024, beginning of 2023, will be see like every data scientist who might be working today in industry, they will be started exploring about MLOps, figuring out the right MLOps tool they might be want to use it for their organization. Along with that, let's say if you're joining a new company, there is a definite an interviewer will be a technical interviewer, someone would be expecting an MLOps skill set sitting on top of your resume. That's an 100%. So because the industry is moving towards operationalizing their ML models, they are not still in the POC stage. They are trying to operationalize. MLOps skill set is must for anyone who is working in a company where a machine learning project comes into the picture actually, right? So any software engineers, DevOps engineers, or data engineers, or data scientists, right? So can join this particular course, or maybe a DevOps engineer who is completely in a different field, but they want to get into machine learning field. A DevOps learning MLOps will be a perfect for those people, or maybe data engineers who are not into machine learning projects, but they want to get into machine learning. So learning MLOps, learning data version control tools, like really adds a more value for them. Okay, so then we have Vamsi. I had done a course on DevOps. I have no experience. I did master in engineering in 2020. Will this work to get the job? So I mean, yeah, so DevOps is really great. Let's say, but you're looking forward into getting into machine learning data science field. Yeah, so you have a DevOps skill sets already. Learning MLOps skills really going to add a value. There is no doubt about that actually. Yeah. So Sai asked another question related to ML, machine learning, deep learning, NLP, only not in cloud. Okay, probably I didn't get it, Sai. So what you mentioned, maybe feel free to mention it once again. Okay, if you're telling, okay, machine learning, deep learning, NLP is not only in the cloud, yeah. So yeah, you could maybe not just using a cloud. Is that your question? Yes, you could able to have your own on-premises servers. At the end of the day, you could able to train, and you could also deploy your models locally too, maybe on premises. That also works. That's why we are also talking about an open source tools, because maybe not industries just using a cloud tools. They want to also use open source tools. Perfectly works for them. Yeah. Okay, we got another question. How are the price per users will be charged for participants like all the cloud platform on AWS, Azure, GCP, Insight on course? Okay, this is the course, Sai. So this is the course that we have for this particular session. I don't know, like if that is a question that you asked. How are the price per user will be charged for participants like all the cloud services on AWS, Azure, and GCP? Yeah. So this is specific to MLOps. If that's a question, this is the price. So this is the price per user. Let's say as a user, if you're looking to purchase basic plan, your price is going to be 24,999. So where we do a free upgrade as a new year offer to 30,000. If that's a question, yes. So Rajesh asked a question. I have a more than 15 years of experience in non-data science. Does this help? Okay, Rajesh, if you can provide some more specifics. What's your current background? I mean, so are you a data engineer, data analyst, some kind of a software professional? So then I could able to provide you that particular answer actually. So let's say if you are from completely different non-technical background, this would be a bit difficult. I'm trying to understand what's background you are right now. Yeah. Okay, Sai asked a question. The account setup in this course build. Okay, see, like let's say during this course, let's say if you're going to, let's say when we are doing an hands-on on top of AWS, it may be GCP or Azure. You are supposed to create your own AWS account actually, Sai. So every cloud platforms offers every cloud platform offers a free trial. AWS offers 1 year free trial, but let's say if you're going for GCP, they provide the credits of $200 for a couple of months. Similarly, Azure, you can able to use it for free for learning. That would be more than enough actually. Hi Rabi, your voice is not audible. Hi Rabi, yes, your voice is not audible. I don't know why, but yeah. Yeah, maybe you can check now. I don't know, like, yeah. Okay, Sai asked another question. Is there a charges will be incurred on every server's user per user? Okay, that's why I mentioned Sai. Let's say if you're creating an account, okay, the fresh account on AWS or Azure or maybe GCP, everything comes under a free trial. Okay, so they won't be charging you any money until you're over going apart from that particular free trial. Okay. Hey Rabi, like, yeah, I couldn't able to hear. Okay, let me just try to check my speaker here. Maybe that might be the reason. Let me just, yeah. So you can try right now, Rabi. Yeah, maybe you can give it a try right now. So probably.
Hello.
Yes, yes. I guess someone is talking. Go ahead, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Thanks for the informative session. So
So
basically,
may I know like who is talking? I guess please mention your name and the role. It would really help for us to understand. Yeah.
so my name is Madhu. Actually, I'm from service background. I've been pursuing research from past 3 years.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I've shifted to like software engineering field, and I've been doing this job from past 1 year. So I have little bit knowledge of software engineering profile, little bit of DevOps, CI/CD pipeline also I have worked on. I have done bug fixing and all that stuff. But now I want to switch to machine learning operations basically.
That's
Uh,
great.
so,
Okay.
so is
Okay,
it
go ahead.
like what all prerequisites do we need to switch to MLOps?
That's a great question. So as I mentioned, one thing is clear. I have mentioned, okay, who are the peoples who can be part of this course? But let's say when it specifically come to the prerequisites, that's a great question. And again, so this is more of an MLOps, right? So because again, here we are not going to talk about, let's say, the basics of deep learning, understanding, okay, what is exactly hyperparameters, all this stuff. We are focusing on much building the pipelines, but still, yes, we'll be building a models, all this stuff. Let's say anyone from technical background, a DevOps peoples who has some basics on programming, let's say, not a programming expert, but I'm talking about, let's say as a DevOps professional, you will be already being part of writing your test cases, writing a test case scripts, right? You'll be having some programming experience, right? I'm not talking about an expertise here, but still, if you have some programming experience, will really work. And again, DevOps peoples is a perfect match. I will tell you like one advantages for DevOps people compared with data scientists here. So here, a traditional MLOps DevOps tools is been already used here, like CI/CD tools. It may be source version control tools. You are not new for that as a DevOps professional. So what is new is other things that we're talking about. Data version control. It could be feature stores that it could be. But again, it has a smell of a DevOps on top of it. Okay. So I guess that's a prerequisite that I'm talking about. Nothing much again. So this is it's again, this course is where we're going to start it from a basics to advanced. You don't have to worry about other tools that if you're not aware about it, right? So what I'm talking about, DVC, or maybe like other ML tools that I'm talking about. Anyway, we're going to cover a basics, then only we're going to teach you how the things work here. That's going to be perfect. So this is the only prerequisites that I would like to mention actually. Yeah.
And what should be the level of Python proficiency basically?
Can you repeat once again if you don't mind?
Yeah, I'm asking what should be the Python proficiency? What should be the level of Python knowledge basically?
So let's
Or
say
any coding language?
beginner to intermediate will perfectly work actually. So yeah. So let's say for example, the way these things work. So as a, let's say now you have a knowledge on MLOps. Let's say you're getting into a job that is where companies are looking for MLOps skill sets, right? So maybe you might not work in a model building phase over there. As I mentioned, there are multiple stakeholders who are part of it. Data scientist will be doing his data science job, but he need to know MLOps skill sets to be collaborated with other teams, right? As a DevOps teams, let's say you'll be working closely with data scientists, taking his model, building, let's say code pipeline here, building some test cases to check your model accuracy, maybe RMSE scores, all those stuff. So, right? So you won't be building a model, right, when you're working on tops of an operations team at the end of the day. So in that particular scenario, if you have a beginner level to intermediate skill will be more than enough to get started with this actual course. If you see most of the tools that I'm just showing in my curriculum doesn't need to have a programming skill sets. So most of the tools, if you could able to see, are mostly like no code or a low code tools, right? If you check out the curriculum, right? So what are the tools that I mentioned here, right? So that would be the level. Yeah. Okay, so let me, if anyone else want to ask a question, maybe you can unmute your mic and you can talk. In the meantime, I will also answer the questions in the chat. Okay, Sai, you can able to talk right now. So I just, yeah, it's a problem with my speaker. I could able to enable it. Okay, Gauri has a good question. If you miss any sessions, can we access a recording of that same? Yes, 100% Gauri. As I mentioned, every Saturday and Sunday, we're going to have this session. Every Monday, you're going to receive a recordings of it. So you could able to access, yeah, all the recordings. We will be sharing that particular week, let's say the slides, it may be the codes, other materials along with that. Okay. So Monday, you can able to access recordings. Okay, so Rabi is asking a question. Can you please talk about an high level, the real-time ML use cases, which you're going to plan to use as part of MLOps activity? That's good. So Rabi, let's say when we talk about, when you mention high level overview, let's say we talk about MLOps maturity models, right? So let's just consider that the different levels, what it might be the 5 levels of ML maturity models. So all our projects that we're going to build as part of this courses is going to be incurring that particular MLOps maturity. Let's say starting from, because let's say what else that you want, what else that you might do, like apart from, let's say, what you have for, let's say, starting from your data versioning control tools to source control version tools and to building a robust feature store. That's a very important aspect, and more than that comes under a model monitoring, right? It's everything starts from a model monitoring, right? So we're going to use and discuss and do hands-on on various model monitoring tools, specifically on, let's say, AWS, it may be Azure or GCP. More than that, and again using one open source tool, which is evidently.ai. It's an open source tools that you could able to use it. Maybe if you have a model on premises, maybe on top of a cloud, you could able to integrate evidently.ai to monitor your model from a production, and again to ensure if there is any drift, extractor reports from it, and you integrate that kind of a reports to, let's say, if you have any visualization tool that you want to build for your organization, maybe you want to integrate that with Tableau or maybe certain other visualization tools, maybe on AWS QuickSight, so where you have a beautiful dashboard built to visualize your results, maybe a drift, it may be a concept drift, right? So that level of integration that I'm talking about in this course is what I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay, we have another question. Alvan. Okay, sorry if I'm pronouncing wrong. From Indonesia, thank you so much for your knowledge, and it's a big pleasure to know about the general knowledge about MLOps to guide me, learn myself with transfer knowledge. Hope you all always agreed. Okay, that's awesome. Thanks, Alva. Okay. Okay, Rajesh, as a question, I have registered for a basic plan. Please upgrade to advanced plan. How can I know? Okay, so upgradation happens internally. Okay, so you don't want to directly register for advanced plan. It's an offer. Let's say you are registering for basic plan within 9th. That's the date. That's the date. Anyone who registers, we have a timestamp anyway, right? Someone who registers between that. Anyone who registers before 9th, you will be upgraded to advanced plan, right? So that's how it's internally done. That's not a problem actually. Okay. Okay, so Rabi, so here, okay, what are those models? Are those dummy models given on Azure or AWS or GCP? Okay, here is the thing. Okay, so here all we worry about, okay, what is the right set of a tool that you need to use? Okay, whether your Presto based feature store is robust enough for your system, whether a Kubeflow is robust enough for your entire pipeline. Otherwise, let's say the evidently.ai open source tool is robust enough for you to monitor your model. Otherwise, SageMaker provided monitoring tools is robust enough to monitor your model. Otherwise, Vertex AI produced model is robust enough to model your model, right? So here, the machine learning model that we are talking about, let's say what kind of a model that we're building, we don't want to get into a lot of deep learning concept. Otherwise, it's not possible to get some real data from an industry to do that, right? So whatever the examples that we'll be proceeding, it's a real-time data. Obviously, it's not dummy generated data at the end of the day. Let's say even if you're getting a Titanic data, that's again a data that is possibly collected in a real fashion, right? Otherwise, even when I'm talking about abalone data set, it's again a real data set. Let's say we could able to generate a data that is generated from NASA, which is simulated data for aircraft, monitoring the aircraft engines. Again, that's again a data which is simulated, right? It's irrespective of what kind of a model that you're building. It's more of the robust pipeline that you're trying to build over here actually, because we cannot just get in some corporate data here and work where we could able to work here. So at the end of the day, so all we going to do is, let's say whether you are building a regression based model, so where we use some regression based model, and in industry you will be getting your own data from industry, that you will be building your real model from your data, right? Let's say you have a classification models, we use some sort of a classification model, we understand how classification model works on top of MLOps pipeline, and there you go, you use your own data from your industry to build same sort of a classification model. Under the hood, the deep learning concepts doesn't change, right? So what you need to really worry about, the feature store, the data version control tool, the CI/CD pipeline that you're using, right? What kind of model approval state that you have, automatic or manual? What kind of a quality gate that you have? What kind of a model monitoring tool that you have? That's really important. Okay, so let me just try to answer. Okay, Rajesh asked another question. Is there any LMS? Okay, yes, Rajesh. So once, let's say completing, I mean, every day once we're done with the live session, you're going to receive a recordings where you can able to access any different modules according to wish. Let's say any module. Yeah, so it's an basically an LMS. I mean, so basically you need a platform where you could able to access recordings, right? And download the materials, download the slides. Yes. Okay, so here we have another question, Ravi. Source data might come from data warehouse or a data lake or JSON or a flat file. So how the pipeline is going to configure? Okay, that's a good question. Okay, so here you have a data that's coming from a data warehouse or a data lake, right? Okay, here we go. Okay, so the answer to this. So let's say here you're going to have a data. A data is nothing but your features at the end of the day, isn't it? So first step, you need to take this data and you need to create a feature store. Okay. Otherwise, let's say you have a data and you need to version the data first of all, right? So let's say you are maybe, let's say I could able to create a data lake on top of Amazon S3 itself. Maybe you might have used Databricks. Let's say I'm talking about just an S3, for example. Let's say you could able to create a data lakes on top of Amazon S3. On top of Amazon S3, I could able to configure DVC. So DVC acts as a data version control tool, but I don't store data on DVC, for example. All my data will be still stored in S3, but registered IDs will be stored in a, let's say my DVC, right? So that's how I create, for example, my data version control. Then again, I have my data on sitting on your Databricks, or maybe like, let's say on your data lakes, or maybe on S3. Let's say I use the data to create a feature store, right? The feature store that I'm going to reuse it for training and again for model inferences, for example, right? So your data lakes and maybe the data warehouse that you have where your data is coming, that's a source of your data. That comes more of a data engineering pipeline, right? I'm talking about once you have a data, then comes your data version control, then you have a feature store, then you consume that data from that feature store. Let's say once you have trained that machine learning model with the features that you created, let's talk about tomorrow. Still your data will be keep on accumulating in your data lakes, isn't it? Obviously new data comes and sits in your data lake. Let's say whenever there is a new data comes and sits in your data lake, you could able to configure your DVC to produce new versions of that data, the new incoming data. And let's say if there is a data drift has been identified from our monitoring tools, it will send a trigger to our entire pipeline again, so where it will take a new data which is version and it will automatically start pre-processing it, training it again, it will deploy a model, and whether you need to approve it or automatically approve it and deploy it. So this is how the things might work actually. So when there is a new data accumulating, new versions will be produced, Rabi, at the end of the day. Okay, so that's a good. So, okay, Rabi. So yes, obviously, I mean, we are not going to create a data lakes because that's not a part of a course here, right? Because creating a data lakes or maybe managing a data lakes comes into data engineering pipeline. But what we're going to do is let's say your data is coming from an S3, or let's consider your data is coming from a blob storage and some other cloud platforms. Let's say your data is coming from even a Google Drive. What we're going to do, we're going to use DVC. We're going to version the data. If you wish to version your data on Google Cloud Platform by using DVC, yes, possible. Yes, if you want to version the data on Google S3, that is possible. Still, you can able to create an lake on S3, right? Same concept, yes. Sorry, Rabi, I guess you couldn't able to unmute your mic. I don't know what's going wrong. Okay, folks, I will be spending few more minutes. I'm really excited to answer all your questions. Please let me know, like if you guys have any questions. I will be also sharing my contact details. You can able to find contact details once again in that PDFs. So anyway, I'm going to share it once again in the chat window. I hope, I guess, Rabi, you got it. If I'm not wrong, please let me know. I will answer once again if I'm not wrong. Okay, I'm going to share this links uh, in a chat window. So I have first link is for registration, second link is for curriculum, the third link is for downloading eBooks, and I have my rest of my contact details at the end. Okay. Sure, Rabi. So you can call me anytime. Awesome. Okay, so I will spare one more minute if you guys have any more questions. Otherwise, yeah, so don't miss it. This offer is till 9th of January. If you're registering by 9th of January, let's say, we will be doing a free upgrade to advanced plan. Register for advanced plan. We do free upgrade to advanced plus plan. Okay, so don't miss it. And thank you so much for spending your valuable 2 hours with this session. I hope you enjoyed the session. You understand, you got what is exactly MLOps is and why it's really important, where is the industry is traveling to it. And thank you so much. This is all what we have for today. Don't miss our awesome course. It's going to start from 28th of January. Don't miss our New Year offer. Thank you so much and enjoy your rest of your day. Thank you then. Bye.